Does Luke want to have lunch with Scott?
Does Luke want to have a lunch with Scott?
No, that's not what he wants. Luke doesn't want to have lunch with Scott.
No, that's not what he wants.
What does Luke
doesn't
want?
want to have a lunch with Scott. What does Luke want?
Luke wants to meet with Scott.
Luke wants to meet with Scott.
Does Luke want to borrow money from Scott?
Does Luke want to borrow money from Scott?
No, Luke doesn't want to borrow money from Scott.
No, Luke doesn't want to borrow money from Scott.
What does Luke want?
What does Luke want?
Luke wants to meet with Scott.
Luke wants to meet with Scott.
Does Luke want to have a meeting with Scott?
Does Luke want to have a meeting with Scott?
Yes, that's correct. Luke wants to meet with Scott, which is the same thing as saying that Luke wants to have a meeting with Scott. To meet with someone means to have a meeting with someone.
That's not correct. Luke wants to meet with Scott, which is the same thing as saying that Luke wants to have a meeting with Scott. To meet with someone means to have a meeting with someone.
Does Luke think the meeting will last all day?
Does Luke think the meeting will last all day?
No, Luke doesn't think the meeting will last all day.
No, Luke doesn't think the meeting will last all day.
How long does he think the meeting will last?
How long does he think the meeting will last?
He thinks the meeting will last about 3
He
hours.
thinks the meeting will
Does
last
he think
about
the meeting
3
will
hours.
last more than 4 hours?
Does he think the meeting will last more than 4 hours?
No, he doesn't think the meeting will last more than 4 hours.
No, he doesn't think the
How long does he
meeting
think
will
the meeting
last
will
more than 4 hours. How long does he think the meeting will
He thinks
last?
the meeting will last about 3
He
hours.
thinks the meeting will last about 3 hours.
Does Scott have time for meetings this week?
Does Scott have time for meetings this week?
No, Scott doesn't have time for meetings this week.
No,
He's
Scott doesn't
very
have
busy.
time for meetings this week.
Is
He's
Scott a little
very
busy or very busy this week?
Is Scott a little busy or very busy this week?
Scott is very busy this week.
Scott is very busy this
Will the meeting
week.
between Luke and Scott take place this
Will
week?
between Luke and Scott take place this week?
No, the meeting between Luke and Scott will not take place this
No,
week.
the meeting between Luke
When
and
will the
Scott
meeting
will
take
not
place?
take place this week. When will the meeting take place?
The meeting will take place next week.
The meeting will take place
Is
next
it true
week.
that the meeting will take place next week instead of this week?
Is that true? Where the meeting will take place next week instead of this week?
Yes, it's true. The meeting will take place next week instead of this week.
Yes, it's true. The meeting will take place next week instead of this week.
Why will the meeting take place next week instead of this week?
Why will the meeting will take place next week instead of this week?
Well, the meeting will take place next week instead of this week because Scott is very busy this week.
Well, the meeting will take place next week instead of this week because Scott is very busy this week.
Now, let's help Luke and Scott figure out the best day next week to set up their meeting. You're looking at the schedules for Luke and Scott for next week.
Now let's have Luke and Scott figure out the best day to set up the meeting. Help Luke and Scott figure out help Luke and Scott for next week.
I'm going to ask questions based on their schedules.
I'm going to ask questions based on our schedules.
Will Luke be in the office on Monday?
Will Luke be in the office on Monday?
Yes, he will. Luke will be in the office on Monday.
Yes, he will. Luke will
What
be
about
in the
Scott?
office on
Will Scott be in
Monday.
the office on Monday?
What about Scott? Will Scott be in the office on Monday?
No, he won't. Scott won't be in the office on Monday.
No, he won't. Scott won't be in the office on Monday.
Who won't be in the office on Monday?
Who won't be in the office on Monday?
It's Scott. Scott won't be in the office on Monday.
It's Scott. Scott won't.
Is it
be
true
in
that
the
Scott will
office
be
on
absent from
Monday.
work on Monday?
Is it true that Scott abs to work on Monday?
Yes, that's true. Scott will be absent from work on Monday.
That is true. That is true. Scott abs to work on Monday.
Can they set up their meeting on Monday?
Can they set up their meeting on Monday?
No, they cannot set up their meeting on Monday.
They cannot. They cannot.
Why can't they set up their meeting on Monday?
Why can't they set up their meeting on Monday?
Well, they can't set up their meeting on Monday because Scott won't be in the office.
Well, they can't set up their meeting on Monday because Scott won't be in the office. Be in the office.
He'll be on vacation.
He'll be on vacation.
Will Luke be on vacation next week?
Will Luke be on vacation next week?
No, Luke won't be on vacation next
No,
week.
Luke won't be on vacation.
Who will be on
next
vacation
week?
next week?
Who on vacation next week?
Scott will be on vacation next week.
Scott will on vacation next week.
Will he be on vacation for 5 days?
Will Luke be? Will his vacation
No,
for
he won't be
5
on vacation
days?
for 5 days.
No,
This is
he
going to be
won't.
a short vacation.
No, he won't be on vacation for 5 days. This is going to be a short vacation.
How many days will he be on vacation?
How many days for? Will
He'll be on vacation for 3 days.
He'll be in vacation
Will Scott
for
be in the
3
office on
days.
Monday?
Will Luke be in the office on Monday?
No, Scott won't be in the office on Monday.
No,
Does that mean they can't set up their meeting on Monday?
no, Scott won't be in the office on Monday. Does that mean they can set up their meeting on Monday?
Này, sao cậu không mặc đồ lót mà ra ngoài
Tôi
chơi
mặc
rồi? Có phải không nhìn ra chút nào không? Chiếc áo lót lộ băng này.
Mua hè. Yes, that's exactly right. That means they can't set up their meeting on Monday.
Yes, that's exactly right. That means they can set up their meeting on Monday.
What about Tuesday? Can they set up their meeting on Tuesday?
Can they set up their meeting on Tuesday?
No, they still can't set up their meeting on
No,
Tuesday.
they still can't set up their meeting.
Why can't they set up their meeting on Tuesday?
Why can't they set up their meeting on Tuesday?
Well, they can't set up their meeting on Tuesday because Scott won't be in the office.
Well, they can't.
Who will
set
be
up
absent
their
from work on
meeting
Tuesday?
Tuesday, because Scott won't be in the office.
It's
Who won't be in the office on Tuesday?
Scott. Scott will be absent from work on Tuesday.
It's Scott. Scott will ask the work on Tuesday.
Will Scott be back on Wednesday?
Will Scott be back on Wednesday?
No, he won't. Scott won't be back on Wednesday.
No, he won't. Scott
When will
won't
Scott be back?
on Wednesday? When will Scott be back?
Scott will be back on Thursday.
Scott will be back
Will Scott
on
be
Thursday.
absent from work on Thursday?
Will Scott ask the work on Monday? On Thursday? On
No,
Wednesday?
Scott won't be absent from work on Thursday. He'll be in the office.
No, Scott will ask the work on Thursday. He'll be in He'll be in the office.
All right, so Scott will be back on Thursday. Does that mean they can set up their meeting on Thursday?
All right. That means Scott in the office on Thursday. Does that mean they can set up their meeting on that day?
Unfortunately, no. They still can't set up their meeting on Thursday.
Unfortunately, no. They still can set up their meeting on Thursday.
Why can't they set up their meeting on Thursday?
Why can't they set up their meeting on Thursday?
Well, they can't set up their meeting on Thursday because Luke won't be in the office. He has a doctor's appointment that day.
Well, they can't set up their meeting on Monday because Scott won't be in the office. Luke won't be in the office. He has a doctor appointment that day.
Who has a doctor's appointment on Thursday?
What's the doctor appointment on Thursday?
It's Luke. Luke has a doctor's appointment on Thursday.
Luke has a
Does Scott have any doctor's appointments next week?
on Thursday? Does Scott have any doctor appointment next
No,
week?
Scott doesn't have any doctor's appointments next week.
Scott doesn't have any doctor appointment
Tell me again,
next week.
why can't they set up their meeting on
Tell me
Thursday?
again, why can't they set up their meeting on Thursday?
They can't set up their meeting on Thursday because Luke has a doctor's appointment that day, so he won't be in the office.
They can't set up their meeting on Thursday because Scott won't be in the office. He has a doctor appointment.
Will Luke be in the office on Friday?
Will Luke be in the office on Friday?
Yes, he will. Luke will be in the office on Friday.
Yes, he will. Luke will be in
What
the
about
office
Scott?
on Friday.
Will Scott be in the office on Friday as well?
Will Scott be in the office on Friday?
Yes, Scott will be in the office on Friday as well.
Yes.
Can they set up their meeting on Friday?
Yes, Scott will in the office on Friday as well. Does Scott?
Yes, they can set up their meeting that day. Will both Luke and
Can they set up their meeting on Thursday? Yes, they can set up their meeting on that day.
Scott be in the office on Friday?
Both Luke and Scott have in the office on Friday.
Yes, they will. Both Luke and Scott will be in the office on Friday.
Yes, they will. Both Luke
Can they
and
set up their
Scott
meeting on
in the
Friday?
office on Friday. Can they set up their meeting on Friday?
Yes, they can. Both Luke and Scott will be in the office on Friday,
Yes, they
so they can
can.
set up their meeting that day.
Both Luke and Scott have a meeting on Friday, so they can set up their meeting on that day.